Serious, in the heat of anger, what was the worst decision you've made? What were the consequences? Car broke down for the 20th time. Barely made it back into the driveway. No money for repairs. Angrily kick the rear of the car. Smashing the tail light. Yell at my own stupidity and throw the keys far into the tree line. Immediately have to go find them because my house keys were also on there. Comma gets mad. Does something stupid. Goddamn. Why did I do that? Comma gets mad. Does something stupid. Telling a judge whatever. Frick this court in the city of Richmond. Consequence. 30 days in jail for a contempt of court charge. On a list of things not to say in court, that would be right up there. Punched a cop in the nose and broke it. It was instinctual after having a fricking horrible day coupled with some creepy sucker following me for 4 blocks. I thought it was the creeper, not the cop I hit when I felt a heavy hand on my shoulder. The cop was freaking out on the ground and his partner pulled his gun on me yelling to put my hands up. I had to explain why that mistake happened. Worked okay, but had to go to the police station to explain my story. Found out the cop was about to ask me if I noticed my wallet was about to fall out of my pocket. Ends up with the broken-nosed cop saying it was okay and that it would be let go if I bought him the burgers he was on his way to get. His grin was comedy gold. Ended up buying burgers for the whole department. That was expensive. Beats doing time for assaulting an officer, and certainly cheaper than your lawyer's fees would have been trying to defend yourself against it. When I was 19, I worked at a summer camp as a sort of supervisor of a group of counselors. There was an event coming up and I had wanted to take a day off in order to attend. My boss insisted that it wasn't possible for me to take the day off, so I decided to call in sick because it pissed me off. Now, knowing that I would need a note from my physician, I actually went to the doctor the following day. My normal doctor was not in, and a nurse practitioner was filling in. She did a pretty thorough exam, poking and prodding my stomach and asking if it hurt, etc. I probably reacted in a couple of areas trying to sell my illness. At this point, she recommends that I visit the ER because she believes I may have appendicitis. This means a better doctor's note, right? I'm in the ER. My entire family is there at this point. They're having me drink the barium milkshakes to prepare for imaging to see if I need to have an appendectomy. I have to drink 4 of these things over an hour. I'm on my last one and the doc comes in and tells me he's going to have the surgeon come in to chat, knowing that they're going to take these pictures and everything will be fine. I'm not concerned. Well, the surgeon comes in after I've finished the last drink. He says that he can see I'm in some pain. Still selling it? To which I explain that we're going to take some pictures to see if it's legit, which will turn up negative. He then explains that he doesn't need the pictures and we should just 10 years later. I'm appendix free and to this day still haven't told my family. TLDR. I faked being sick to get back at my boss and now I don't have an appendix. Got into drunken fight with wife. Drove off angrily, crashed into tree, spent a long time in intensive care, almost died, face permanently disfigured. My mom's husband did this while we were camping. He drove away drunk, abandoning us in the woods, except he didn't suffer injuries. The tree was in a national park and he did time in prison. My older sister was teasing me mercilessly when I was about 8 years old. I was stewing over it for about an hour and decided that the best revenge would be to destroy her favorite blanket that our mother had made by hand. One for her, one for me, cut from the same cloth. I grabbed her blanket and a pair of scissors and proceeded to cut the blankie to ribbons in front of her. She started laughing hysterically, which was not the reaction that I expected. I looked at what was left of the blanket and saw my initials on it and realized that I had mistakenly destroyed my favorite blankie. To be fair, there was still a lesson to get out of this. Not myself, but my dad used to have a serious drinking problem. One night, when I was in high school, I was driving home from work and the town I lived in was very small. I ended up driving behind a truck that I was pretty certain was my dad's. Now I should add that I was driving with my brights on because one of my headlights was messed up and it wouldn't turn on without having the brights on. Well, I am driving home thinking how funny it is that I ended up behind my dad when he slows down and comes to a complete stop at a curve where I couldn't get around him. I was very confused. He gets out of his car and starts screaming at me from his car. He is calling me all sorts of names and grabs a Frosty from Wendy's and throws it at my car. He ended up throwing it so hard it dented the middle of my hood. I was absolutely terrified. He had gotten mad like this before and I seriously had no idea what I had done to pee him off. He starts walking towards my car, and even though he was a good distance away I could see the look of rage in his eyes. I was physically shaken, so much so that I couldn't even manage to cry because I was so terrified. Turns out, my dad had gotten into an argument with a guy in the Wendy's parking lot who had a similar car, and since I had my brights on, he couldn't tell it was me, not to mention he was probably drunk. When he got to my door, I assume he planned on grabbing the dude out. He just stopped frozen. He got back in his truck and drove away. When I got home, he walked into his room, grabbed a bag and left to stay in a hotel and start getting help. He couldn't look me or my mother in the eye. Crap, well, at least this was his wake-up call. I was playing chess with my mom. I was in my elementary school's chess club at the time, so I thought I was pretty hot crap. I was 10 however, and she was an adult, so she was beating my butt without effort. I was a small dickhead, so it didn't take long for me to reach my 10-year-old boiling point. In a fit of misplaced child rage, I picked up one of her knights and I bit it. It was a cheap plastic set, so I managed to take a chip out of it. The knight remains chipped, and to this day whenever I get upset about something mum just says don't bite the pony. The knight remains chipped, and to this day whenever I get upset about something mum just says don't bite the pony. That's hilarious. Your mom sounds fun. Around when I was 9 years old my older sister was always a bit of a bully to me. At the time she had a broken leg and was using crutches to get around. While walking down the stairs, she hit me with one of her crutches. Apparently at the time I had had enough of her crap, so I turned and kicked both her crutches out. Halfway down the staircase, she fell down about 9 stairs and probably had to keep the cast on her leg for another few months because of that. Bet she learned her lesson though. I was probably around 12. My older sister had a friend over and was being really mean to me. She was in her room with the door shut, so I took some string and tied her doorknob to mine across the hall so she couldn't open it. Of course right after I did that, she knocked a bottle of nail polish remover onto a candle and lit her carpet on fire. Yes, I cut the string. No, they weren't hurt. Her friend actually told her to stop being so mean to me. But the next time I'm 12 and upset, I'll remember that teenagers aren't very responsible with fire. I really thought that was going in a really bad direction. Not me, but my brother. Hope the entertaining story makes that okay as a submission. So my brother is a rageaholic, especially when playing Xbox first-person shooters. He has thrown and destroyed about 5 or 6 Xbox 360 remotes. These things range from $50–$60 each. He doesn't buy off-brand knockoffs. One night, during a peak of extreme intensity, he was moments away from smashing another remote, hand raised in the air, ready to be smashed to the ground as hard as possible. Suddenly, a brief lucid thought crossed his mind. Perhaps I shouldn't do this. It's going to cost me another $60 if I break this remote. But, rage overflowing, hand already in the air, all he could alter about the decision in that split second was to smash the remote down onto the couch, instead of the floor. Well, it just so happened that he had placed his brand new iPhone on the couch earlier, before starting his gaming session, and completely forgot it was there until the moment the remote made a shattering contact with it. This of course, triggered some sort of super rage. I tried to not break my remote. How could fate do this to me? I believe is an semi-accurate paraphrasing of his thoughts. With super rage mode activated, the obviously logical course of action was to kick the 50-inch projection television as hard as he could. He put his foot right through the screen, decided to get blackout drunk, and woke up to a destroyed living room with a shattered iPhone and destroyed TV filled with vomit. He vaguely remembers laughing as he threw up into the hole in the TV. The Xbox remote was fine though. I love that he threw up in the hole in the TV. Throwing my phone because I was arguing with the Lenovo customer support about the warranty on my broken laptop. The phone hit the TV, which cracked the screen on the phone and TV. Now that I'm using Internet Explorer on a library computer, I regret everything. I can totally see that happening because phones are just so perfect for throwing in anger. I can't even remember all the times I got upset after a conversation and then just threw the phone on the table until it bounced back one day and cracked the mirror. I was eating some tuna after having a very bad day. My younger brother kept teasing me for something I don't remember now and wouldn't shut up after I told him to several times. All of a sudden I snap, grab my fork and launch it at him. Fork hits him in the head. 5 seconds later blood starts coming out of his head with increasing intensity. Consequences? A lesson. If you are having a bad day, don't take it out on others, especially your family, which is the only group of guys that really give a crap about you, and for life scar on his head. When I was 14, I kicked my dog. It didn't hurt her badly. She licked me afterward. But I can't think of anything I've ever done in anger that I have regretted as much or for as long. It's been 23 years and I still remember her turning to lick me. What an amazing animal. This made me cry. My dog of 13 years died a month ago today, and when I was in elementary school I kicked her a couple times. The guilt still kills me. When I was 14, my dad forgot to pick me up after school, and he told me to find my own way home. I walked approximately 8.5 miles to get to my house. Then he wouldn't let me in. I was so angry I went to my neighbor's house. Kid in the same grade as me lived there, Mike. And when I told him what happened he said I could come in. He had an older brother who smoked cigarettes and weed. I had never before smoked, drank, etc. But I was mad, really mad. We stole all his crap, got high and smoked all night in Mike's bedroom. Consequences. 11 years later, still smoke cigarettes, dealing with cancer. Worst decision ever. All because I was angry with my dad. I was a little kid around 8 years old, and I had gotten in a fight with my sister. I got really pissed off and threw one of those mini CDs at her in a rage. It was a GameCube game, I think. It curved perfectly through the air and hit her right between the eyes. I'm laughing about it now, but she had a scar for a while. When my sister and I were much younger, we fell out, argued, for probably the very first time. She was just old enough to be trusted to walk around the house on her own and stuff, and I'm about 5 years older than her. We fell out. I can't remember what over, but shortly after, she came back into the room we had been in. She was in tears and holding a piece of paper. It was a picture of me and her holding hands and the words, "I'm sorry." I ripped it up in front of her eyes, threw it to the ground and left the room. I'm sure she doesn't remember this, but it still gets to me this day. We get on as well as two siblings possibly could. Nowadays, I reckon if I asked her she wouldn't have a clue, but I'll never forget looking at her as she welled up right in front of me. That's so sad. I have a lot of guilt about being mean to my little sister. I also hope she doesn't really remember it. After a series of frustrating events, frick it, today is a good day to try a cigarette. Still trying to quit 9 years later. Our electronic cigarette, 12-year smoker, smoking pack and a half a say when I found that subreddit. No cigarettes in 50 days. Edit. You guys can say what you want, but my pockets are less empty and I've been skating around town much less winded. I can smell better and I don't smell like cigarettes. Food tastes better. I got angry at someone who was born and proceeded to treat them like crap for almost 8 years. I was 8 or something when my cousin was born. When he got older, he was always over here. I don't know why I hated my little cousin so much. He was a great kid. I just had this rage. It would manifest in doing tiny little things to hurt him, maybe trip him, or would just destroy him repeatedly in video games or something. I also used to glare at him a lot when he wasn't looking. When he was about 8 and I was 16 or so, I had to watch him for a little bit, and he wanted to go outside and play with the stupid little golf set, but all I wanted to do was stay in the house and play video games. He dragged me out, he gave me a turn, and I accidentally hit him on the head when I went to swing. And by accidentally I mean completely on purpose, but looked like it was accident. So, I hit him. He broke down crying, had a small gash on his head. I took him into the house and cleaned his cut, and indifferent to his crying I just coldly said it was an accident. Then he replies through tears, "It's okay. I know you wouldn't hurt me on purpose." That's when it hit me, almost like I hit him. That's when I realized what a freaking crappy human being I had been. I treated him like he was freaking trash. What the frick was I doing? Why the frick was I so angry? After that, it just went away. I'd say that we're pretty much best friends since then. Whoa, that one made me want to cry. A little kid's innocence really yanks on your feels. Didn't say goodbye to my mum the last time I ever saw her. Wished in my head she'd die. Only because I was pissed off she and my brother were going to Fiji without me and I was stuck with having to go to work. But I didn't realize it was because her radiation therapy hadn't worked and she was pretty much going home to die. I had no idea it had progressed to that stage, so when she came to hug me I turned away. So she gave me a side hug. Well, that was the best she could do and she was pretty weak at that stage. I still feel like the shittiest person alive thinking about her face that morning and her little bony frame pressed up against me. Years ago I was super pissed at my roommate because she couldn't keep a secret. So I punched a framed picture of her that was on the wall. The glass cut into every one of my knuckles. The worst was my thumb. The blood took forever to stop, and I just bandaged it really tight. After about 3 days, I started to notice red streaks running up my arm. I showed my dad, and he took me to the hospital. Turns out, I cut my tendon, and the joint had gotten severely infected. The doctor said that I was hours away from losing my thumb. After surgery, I had to stay in the hospital for 5 days with a knife hooked up. The morphine was nice though. When I was a kid, my little sister did something to enrage me. She is standing in front of one of the walls and I decide to wind up and launch the biggest haymaker a 6-year-old can muster. It was a glorious swing that ended up impacting the wall as she matrixed out of the way. I end up running to my mom screaming and bawling that my sister was mean, so I tried to punch her, but she moved, causing me to injure myself. My mom laughed at me and walked away. Of all the stories, yours made me smile for how cool your mom played that off. In an argument with my now wife at our first apartment, I, being alpha as frick, decided it was best to show her my love by punching a wall. 2 things. 1. I had to repair the hole in the wall. 2. I found a stud. In my short-tempered teenage years, me pops got into a massive argument. I don't remember about what, but thinking on it now, it was probably petty. In my fit of rage I decided to punch a tree. I didn't think it was that hard of a punch until my hand was about the size of an eggplant. Went into the house and told my dad my hand got caught in the garage door and off we went to the hospital. The first words out the doctor's mouth after the x-ray: looks like your son has a boxing fracture colon. After the surgery, 6 weeks and a hand cast, a month of physical therapy, 2 weeks of my pops not talking to me and the family calling me Samson. I learned to control my temper and not my temper control me. I was getting a ride to school and I saw my bully, at the time, riding his bike, so I opened the car door, hitting him. The consequences were I had to pay all his medical bills and thank God he didn't press charges. A girl chased me out of a bar after an argument we had gotten into. Didn't know she was following me until she punched me in the back of my head. Turned around and elbowed her. I went to jail for that because I stayed till the cops arrived to give my side of the story. I had to take anger management classes and pay her for the insurance of her injury, emergency room visit, prescribing her ibuprofen, and now I have to show future employers a slip showing my case was dismissed. I don't know much about law, but I have been in some trouble. You may want to get a lawyer and see if you can get that whole thing expunged from your record. That way you wouldn't have to say anything to your employers. My father, who had just lost his job and wife of 20 years, was on methadone for back pain issues. He was living from credit card to credit card and severely depressed. One morning before I had to go to work, he asked me if I'd walk the dog for him since he wasn't feeling up to it. I told him that I had to get to work. He complained to me and I just ignored it. When I came home that night I found him dead in his shower. Looking back, I'm sure that our argument that morning wasn't the reason he killed himself, but if I'd been more compassionate and caring, things might have gone differently. Picked a fight with a SWAT team. In my defense, the only reason I was so pissed off was because of the Adderall I was prescribed. I was shot in the left testicle with a beanbag round and was carted off to a funny farm for half a year. I confronted my then wife's lover and he said, "Yeah, I'm freaking her. What are you gonna do about it?" It was dark and I don't think he had seen the golf club that was right next to me. I beat him with it severely and didn't stop until I heard sirens. I was sentenced to 3 years in prison. I bet his regrets asking you what you were going to do about it. I was making food, got angry, stubbed my toe on a salad bowl that was on the floor for some reason, kicked said salad bowl out of the way, got even angrier, went to leave, stubbed toe on salad bowl again, picked up salad bowl, smashed salad bowl. Cue 3 hours of my 4-year-old sister crying and screaming, saying, "You killed my favorite salad bowl." Hahaha. My mom killed a cricket in the bathroom once, and my tiny little brother cried that she killed his best friend Joey. I used to play baseball when I was younger. In a summer tournament, I was angry at the other team for pegging everyone on my team. I was catching and told my pitcher to hit the batter. When it happened, the batter charged the mound. I tripped him, took off my mask and beat him with it. Broke his nose, his cheekbone, teeth and gave him a large shiner on his left eye. I was ejected from the game and he went to the hospital. His dad was a lawyer but he let it go because insurance paid for it and because his son got what he deserved. His dad is a solid dude. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.